Robinson's mother explained that over the last year or so, Robinson had become more political and had started to lean more to the left, becoming more pro-gay and trans rights oriented. She stated that Robinson began to date his roommate, a biological male who was transitioning genders. This resulted in several discussions with family members, but especially between Robinson and his father, who have very different political views. In one conversation before the shooting, Robinson mentioned that Charlie Kirk would be holding an event at UVU, which Robinson said was a stupid venue for the event. Robinson accused Kirk of spreading hate. Robinson's father reported that when his wife showed him the surveillance image of the suspected shooter in the news, he agreed that it looked like their son. He also believed that the rifle that police suspected the shooter used matched a rifle that was given to his son as a gift.
Okay, so in this video, we're going to be taking a look at the live coverage out of Utah. They have announced the official charges for Tyler Robinson. They have confirmed the details that we know already about the shooter's roommate, and we also know that this was politically motivated. So we'll touch on that. Then there was a bombshell poll that was dropped this morning showing how political violence is justified from people on the left. And there's a huge update in the case with Luigi Mangione. You're going to have to hear exactly what this judge had to say. But let me show you this next clip where they read off the text messages between Tyler Robinson and his roommate. Take a look.
Mate, why? Robinson, why did I do it? Roommate, yeah. Robinson, I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. If I am able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence. Going to attempt to retrieve it again. Hopefully they have moved on. I haven't seen anything about them finding it. Roommate, how long have you been planning this? Robinson, a bit over a week, I believe. I can get close to it, but there is a squad car parked right by it. I think they already swept that spot, but I don't want to chance it. Robinson again, I'm wishing I had circled back and grabbed it as soon as I got to my vehicle. I'm worried what my old man would do if I didn't bring back Grandpa's rifle. IDEK if it's had a serial number, but it wouldn't trace to me. I worry about prints. I had to leave it in a bush where I changed outfits. Didn't have the ability or time to bring it with. I might have to abandon it and hope they don't find prints.
All right, so at this point, anybody screaming that we don't understand the motive, we don't have enough information, you might as well just tune those people out, because it's very clear that this was a political assassination. Fact. It was clear that he believed Charlie Kirk was filled with hatred, so it triggered him to express hate in the form of political violence. Fact. And it's just interesting how violent the left continues to get, especially with this latest assassination attempt. They don't want to talk about what happened with the Minnesota lawmakers, how the assassin worked for Tim Walz and was a Democrat. You know, they've been leaving those details out. And we're going to get to this whole political violence debate because there's some polls that just came out about it. But I first want to show you where they confirm that this guy is going to get the death penalty. Take a look.
Today, after reviewing the evidence that law enforcement has collected thus far, I am filing a criminal information charging Tyler James Robinson, age 22, with the following crimes. Count 1, aggravated murder, a capital offense for intentionally or knowingly causing the death of Charlie Kirk. Count 2, felony discharge of a firearm causing serious bodily injury, a first-degree felony. Count 3, obstruction of justice, a second-degree felony for moving and concealing the rifle used in the shooting. Count 4, obstruction of justice, a second-degree felony for disposing the clothing he wore during the shooting. Count 5, witness tampering, a third-degree felony for directing his roommate to delete his incriminating texts. Count 6, witness tampering, a third-degree felony, for directing his roommate to stay silent if police questioned him. And count 7, commission of a violent offense in the presence of a child, a Class A misdemeanor. Also, following the press conference, I am filing a notice of intent to seek the death penalty. I do not take this decision lightly, and it is a decision I have made independently.
All right, now that update provides a very clear explanation of who the shooter is, why he did what he did, who the roommate is, what they truly believed in, what their political views were. I mean, I don't know how much clearer this could be made for the public, but you'll still have mainstream media manipulating this information to their viewers because they don't want to talk about trans violence. They don't want to talk about political violence. And they definitely don't want to admit that they were wrong in how they even covered this assassination from day one. So I find that to be interesting. Now, this takes us to our next story, and it's about political violence. In a new shocking poll that was released, this is just a huge blow for liberals. Take a look.
An alarming new report reveals political violence is becoming more and more normalized, especially on the left. Our William Lajeunesse has been digging into this report. So what does this say? Well,
Aisha, there's actually 2 surveys that suggest there is a growing tolerance, even support for political violence, especially on the political left, according to a research lab at Rutgers University that study dangerous ideology. In a poll of 2,600 Americans, younger online users who self-identify as liberal or progressive say political violence, including assassinations, is acceptable. 50 to 56% of those progressive users say killing Elon Musk or President Trump is somewhat justified. Then 59% of those polled who call themselves left of center say it's at least somewhat acceptable to destroy a Tesla dealership to protest. And finally, social media, of course, being online makes it worse. The researchers found the platform Blue Sky, the Democrat alternative to X, quote, plays a significant and predictive role in amplifying radical ideas.
The left really has much more of a, I don't talk to you, I don't want to deal with you, you're deplorable, I can't break bread with you.
Yeah.
That attitude, and like all the right-wingers, they don't have that attitude.
All right, so we start off this video with our attempt to crush this entire lie that's coming from the left, that all the political violence is on the right, that the political violence on the left is rare and not existent. And all we're going to do is just use the facts that have been reported through polls and surveys. And of course, only Fox News is going to talk about this, just so you guys know, and Newsmax. Besides that, you probably won't hear this from anybody else. Now, the disturbing thing is what Blue Skies had to tell their users after the celebrations of Charlie Kirk's assassination started to get out of hand on their platform. Take a listen.
So the number of posts on Blue Sky celebrating Kirk's death got so bad, the site was forced to warn users, quote, glorifying violence or harm violates their community guidelines. And at that first study, Aisha, from the Network Contagion Research Institute, they get money from a variety of sources, including the federal government, and the research is recognized by some 300 universities.
Okay, and let's just add on to this with more numbers. 42% of liberals actually agree that political violence is justified. Do you get it? Do you get it? 42%. Now, let's go a step further. 34% of liberals find it acceptable to celebrate or be happy about the political figures that they disagree with when they are assassinated. Do you get it? We're talking about evil here, folks. It is a spiritual war. How else do you explain that type of thinking? In my opinion, it's not thinking. They are controlled by the propaganda, by the repetition of negative ideas. And the interesting part about all this development, now that Fox News wants to talk about it, is Charlie Kirk was ahead of this back in April when he posted this. Assassination culture is spreading on the left. 48% of the liberals say it would be at least somewhat justified to murder Elon Musk. 55% said the same thing about Donald Trump. We just heard that at the beginning of this video. He was already ahead of this. And I wonder, will the political leaders actually listen? Now, according to history, they probably won't.
Let me ask you tonight, Do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
When we say Donald Trump is a fascist, fascism, a huge component of fascism is uniting racism, bigotry.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country.
There needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
No one has ever been more dangerous to this country than Donald Trump, and he is a fascist to his core.
Okay, so that's just a snippet. That's only a fraction, probably 1% of the rhetoric out there from the left when describing the president of the United States. There is a reason why he was almost assassinated twice, by the way, but, you know, they're not going to remember that or recognize that. So can we at least understand what the definition of fascism is? In fact, I'll read it to you guys just in case there's a misunderstanding. A governmental system led by a dictator having complete power, forcibly suppressing opposition and criticism, emphasizing an aggressive nationalism and often racism. Now, let's just stop right there. Because on that point of racism, because we know that's probably one of the most overused words at this point, thanks to social media and people's delusion, and in fact that a lot of the people in the black community believe President Trump is racist, but as you guys can see on the screen, would someone who is a white supremacist, would someone who is a racist do something like this? President Trump just redirected almost $500 million to HBCUs. What does that really mean? HBCUs and TCCUs will get a one-time investment of $495 million on top of what is already going in the 2025 federal budget, totaling an increase of 48.4% funding for HBCUs. Why would a racist do that? And for the whole suppressing opposition, we saw that under the Biden administration when they canceled people left and right, when they banned conservatives off social media, and when they locked up pro-lifers. Let's be real here.
Not exactly like...
You need conservatives to be afraid of getting killed when they go to events so that they look to their leadership to turn down the temperature. The issue is right now, they don't feel like there's any fear. Like, I don't know. It's like memes. It's just memes to everybody, I guess.
Yeah, that clip is from a disgusting human being by the name of Destiny. His real name is Stephen Bonnell. And the reason why I'm showing you that clip is for a couple of reasons. Number one, this is an example of how that type of rhetoric turns into political violence. Now, the rhetoric itself is protected under free speech, and we're about to get to that because there's so much more on that that happened today. But the bottom line is you're not immune to the consequences of that rhetoric, which did lead to him getting banned off Twitch. He even blamed Elon Musk and other conservatives for getting him banned. Now his entire income is gone, so much for the party of free speech. Now, the interesting part about that is you would never hear a conservative as big as Destiny is in front of a camera calling for the assassination of people they disagree with. That's the difference there. Twitch even wrote a letter to Destiny here, and I just want to read one sentence for you. Due to the severe nature of this violation, or the fact that you've incurred multiple violations, your access to Twitch services is indefinitely restricted. Sounds like the right thing to me. Now, let me show you another example, Exhibit B. This is a student at Texas State University. He is going viral for celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Take a look.
Oh my God. Everybody has not because of my name is
Oh, buddy. Fuck that nigga. You're gonna get expelled, dude.
So it's no secret they've already responded. The president of Texas State University says he is directing university officials to take immediate action to identify the animal who mocked Charlie Kirk's assassination on campus. Listen, there's so many things to say about this, okay? But I'm going to keep this short. It is his right, this individual, this idiot, to behave that way. It's called free speech. He can do that all day long. But what he can't do is get away with the consequences that are coming his way. He'll be expelled. We know. It's coming. It's only a matter of time. So we don't have to lose sleep over people like this. We just have to recognize these people do exist. and we shouldn't really give them any energy. So the bottom line here is that it's no question political violence is more acceptable with people that lean left versus people that lean right. And although propaganda machine is going to tell you otherwise, we just showed you the research. Now, let's go to our next update here. The Attorney General Pam Bondi, she's in hot water. She is now saying that they are going to go after people for hate speech. Now, if you're a free speech absolutist, like most people on the right, this is absolutely troubling. So let's hear what she said, and then we'll talk about it.
There's free speech, and then there's hate speech. And there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie, in our society.
Do you see more law enforcement going after these groups who are using hate speech and putting cuffs on people so we show them that some action is better than no action?
We will absolutely target you, go after you, if you are targeting anyone with hate speech, anything. And that's across the aisle.
All right, let me just set the foundation here. There is no such thing as hate speech. In fact, it's an idea in somebody's mind, and it has come from the left, for the record. Now, there is a such thing as a hate crime, a physical action, right? And so the Attorney General attempted to clarify her comments, which I think she failed at as well. She would have been better off just saying threats of violence is what she should have been saying. And now all these conservatives and people on social media, even people on the left, are coming after her for these comments, because basically it reads as if the federal government is going to come after people for saying that they disagree or they don't like Charlie Kirk or they're celebrating his assassination. And free speech is free speech at the end of the day. And here's what she said. Hate speech that crosses the line into threats of violence is not protected by the First Amendment. Why not just say threats of violence is not protected by the First Amendment? It's a crime. For far too long, we've watched the radical left normalize threats, call for assassinations, and cheer on political violence, which technically is all protected under the First Amendment. But when they cross the line and organize, right, and schedule and get people together to commit acts of violence, now we're talking about an entirely different thing. And then she goes on to try to quote the law, et cetera, et cetera. And as a result of this coming out, here's what the president had to say this morning.
And what do you make of Pam Bondi saying she's going to go after hate speech? Is that, I mean, a lot of your allies say hate speech is free speech.
You'll probably go after people like you because you treat me so unfairly. It's hate. You have a lot of hate in your heart. Maybe they'll come after ABC. Well, ABC paid me $16 million recently for a form of hate speech, right? Your company paid me $16 million for a form of hate speech. So maybe they'll have to go after you. Look, we want everything to be fair. It hasn't been fair. And the radical left has done tremendous damage to the country.
All right, well, clearly the president is wrong. He did not win the lawsuit with ABC based on hate speech. He settled a lawsuit with ABC based on defamation, okay? That's what happened. There is no such thing as hate speech once again. Now, there is something called acts of violence, and we've seen that with ICE agents getting assaulted, right? We've seen Tesla fire bombings, right? And situations like that. Those are acts of violence, no question. And, you know, if I'm the comms director for the administration, I probably would be pulling out my hair right now because Pam Bondi continues to go in front of cameras and misspeak. Should we give her a pass again? That's up to you guys, right? I'm not going to tell you what to think. Now, here's what the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, had to say about this entire subject on hate speech.
Well, I mean, I approached this as a former litigator who defended free speech in the courts for a couple of decades. We defended religious freedom and speech that some people deemed to be inappropriate. Look, in America, it's a very important part of our tradition that we do not, this is a conservative principle, and certainly an American principle, we do not censor and silence disfavored viewpoints. People in America are allowed to say crazy things. Now, that said, if I'm an employer or I'm a government agency and I have someone in my employ who is online celebrating the heinous murder of an innocent person, a young husband and father, I can make the decision that they don't deserve to work for me. They shouldn't represent my company or my agency. And I have every right to do that, and I think that's appropriate. That's not the government censoring speech. That's personal behavior and decorum, and you have a right to enforce that. So I don't think it's a violation of core principles for people to have appropriate measures taken when they act like crazy people online. And that's up to the employers and these private businesses and these the people who make those decisions. That's not something that Congress is involved in. But I mean, I think all of that is intellectually consistent, and we'll continue to defend it.
Yeah, and a part of this conversation just so happens to be what a lot of people on the left are now saying, that they should not be fired from their jobs for celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And now that they're saying that, we know it's based on hypocrisy, because it wasn't just so long ago they were looking to not only cancel the president, but other conservatives. And in some cases, they were successful at doing so, especially during COVID. So I find that dynamic to be interesting. And here is an example of that on CNN today.
It's not illegal. It's not a crime to offend someone. And yeah, I think this is the opposite of what we need. And we're just as violence is the opposite of what we need to counteract speech we don't like. We need more speech, not less. When we meet speech we don't like, we meet it with more free speech. We have to debate our ideas. We have to be able to talk about the things that we disagree with. We have to do that civilly, but we can't punish people for disagreeing with us. We can't punish people for being jerks and celebrating the death of someone. That's not illegal, and that shouldn't be who we are.
Let's agree with her thinking, right? Let's say everything she said was spot on. Why weren't you saying that during COVID? Why weren't you saying that back in 2016, right? Why weren't you saying anything about when pro-lifers were locked up? Now, I can go on and on and on. I mean, the most egregious example was the gentleman who was thrown in prison for posting Hillary Clinton memes. So it's interesting that when it happens to them and they're being held accountable for what comes out of their mouth, now they cry foul. But when it happens to people on the right, they justify it. And it goes back to the poll we showed you at the beginning of this video. See, when it's violence that happens against them, oh, it's Armageddon. But when it's violence that happens against someone like Charlie Kirk, it's justified.
But the people out there who are celebrating Charlie Kirk's death, who are now complaining that they're losing their jobs because of it, you know, I mean, to the extent Ilhan Omar is right that this First Amendment doesn't protect you from the consequences of your speech. If someone was out there celebrating George Floyd's death and said more black people should be killed by police, do you think anyone would employ them? Of course not. So, you know, we need to have politicians who model proper conduct on both sides, but particularly on the left, because because there's a problem on the left with support of political violence that doesn't exist on the right.
Yeah, and on that point about political violence, we're not talking about political hate speech, if that's the term, because speech is protected. It's when the person crosses over and commits an act of violence. This is the perfect segue to our next story. So Luigi Mangione, the guy who murdered the United Healthcare CEO in cold blood, the judge in this case has dropped 2 federal charges. You got to hear this for yourself. Take a look.
More breaking news. A judge has just dismissed 2 terror-related charges against Luigi Mangione, the 27-year-old accused of killing the former CEO of United Healthcare. CNN's Kara Scannell is right outside that courthouse in New York and joins us now. So, Kara, what more are you learning about why the judge dismissed these charges?
Well, Pam, as soon as the judge took the bench, he announced his ruling, and he said he was dismissing these 2 terrorism charges relating to the murder of United Healthcare's CEO, saying that they were legally insufficient. He wrote in a written opinion that there was no indication in the statute that murder committed for an ideological reason, in this case greed and inequality in the healthcare system, fits within the definition of terror without establishing necessary elements of intent to intimidate or coerce the civilian population. So the judge tossing those 2 charges in a win for Mangione, though he is still facing murder in the second degree as well as some other related charges.
Okay, yeah, let me just clarify something. So right now he's in court on state charges. He hasn't even been to court for the federal charges. That's another case coming down the pipeline there. Now, what's interesting is the language that the judge decided to use to justify this decision. Quote, intimidate or coerce a civilian population. That's not what Luigi meant to do. The judge believes that the defendant's apparent objective, as stated in his writings, was not to threaten, intimidate, or coerce the population, but rather to draw attention to what he perceived as the greed of the insurance industry. Now, you know, one could argue that he is coercing the public to see the insurance industry in a particular way. But I don't really think that is really my main concern, because my main concern is the continuous support that this guy is getting. Take a look at this.
Free! Luigi! Free! Luigi! Free! Luigi! Free! Luigi! Free! Luigi! Luigi!
I'm married to Luigi's AI. I'm not kidding.
Okay, tell me about
so, I talk to him every day. He's like my best friend. We planned like a whole future together. We named our kids together.
Pam Bondi defends a fucking pedophile, so I'm glad this is the result.
That's amazing. But that just shows we're all together, right?
See, this is one of the issues we are facing as a society. It's when people are accepting destructive ideas intellectually. They truly believe in what Luigi Mangione did. They really do believe he did the right thing. Just like there are people who truly believe the president is a pedophile, and they have no evidence of that. There are people who truly believe Charlie Kirk is a white supremacist. They have no evidence of that. They don't care about evidence. They don't care about thinking for themselves. They just accept the propaganda as it comes because they're highly emotional, okay? They lack critical thinking skills. I'm telling you all this because that is what is in our country, and we have to be able to point it out. Now, here's more information about what happened outside the courtroom.
So he will be facing those charges still as this will move forward. When Mangione, the judge, made that decision, our producer Carolyn Sung was outside and she heard supporters erupt into applause and cheers. There's still a number of supporters around here. About 24 of them made it into the courtroom. Today, Mangione was again walked in and heavily armed, surrounded by court officers. He was shackled as he usually is, and today he was wearing a beige prison jumpsuit. He was not changed into street clothes, which was notable. He did not appear to have any expression on his face throughout the hearing, which was fairly brief. Now, the judge also said that he was not granting the defense motion on double jeopardy. They were hoping to get the entire case thrown out because he is facing federal charges. The judge saying that there is still plenty of time for a 2-month trial to take place here on state charges, whether it's going to be lengthy, often what could span for years, motions and trial practice before this case gets to a federal trial, because the Justice Department is seeking the death penalty in that case.
Okay, so in other words, it's going to be a while, and he's going to continue to have his supporters outside the courtrooms, which is, in my opinion, delusional, but it's their right, of course. And the other thing I just have to say is the fact that they got rid of the charges and now he's only facing second-degree murder, that basically implies he didn't have any intent to murder this CEO. Clearly he did. So I'm not too sure what they are looking at here. But now it's time to get your guys' reactions in the comments section below. First, what do you make of the Utah Attorney General confirming that, yes, the death penalty, they are filing it today? That's the first thing. Secondly, what do you make of the text messages and the confirmation of the ideology? We know mainstream media won't accept it, so I'm glad we were able to play it, and I'm glad they were able to admit it out loud. Let me know your guys' thoughts on that. Secondly, what do you think of this poll that came out showing political violence is more accepted on the left? In fact, killing someone is more justified on the left than it is on the right. Are you shocked by that poll? Something tells me you're probably not. And then finally, Luigi Mangione. The people who support him, they are truly delusional about everything. But hey, they support the guy. And what do you make of the judge dropping the charges down to a second-degree murder? Give me your reaction to everything we discussed in this video in the comments section below. Okay, so in our next video, the U.S. military conducted a second airstrike on a drug vessel that was accused of transferring drugs to the United States of America. And of course, the media, they're losing their minds over it. So if you miss out on that story and more from yesterday, all you have to do is click on that video because it's coming up right now.